Hey folks, welcome to Fyrefly's Follies. I really hope you enjoy the video today. If you do, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. It really does help my channel out a lot. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope that you will and stick around for a while. I don't know about you guys, but in my neck of the woods this year, there's an abundance of zucchini and a shortfall of cucumbers. I needed pickles, so I decided to make Zickles. That's zucchini in place of cucumber. I've cut it into spears that are the right size to fit my jars. I had a few squash, so I threw a couple of those in as well. And I did trim the very center of the seeds out, but I did leave a few, basically the end. These were really big zucchini. I did the same thing with the squash. I just cut them into wedges that are the right height to fit my jar. And I'm going to get these started prepping. Okay, these are going to brine in salt water for about 3 hours. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my canning salt. You can use kosher salt. I'm using canning salt and sprinkle it over the top, and then I'm going to just cover them in cold water. Now you want to check and make sure that it is cold water, and I like to spin the bowl as it's filling just to rinse the salt off the top of them and get it down in the water. And you only want to fill until they're covered. So once they start to float, then I like to swish them around just a little bit in the salt water to make sure that everything is mixed up really well. And then what I'm going to do is once they're swished around a little bit and everything is kind of soaked in salt water, I'm just going to put the lid on them and I'm going to put them in my fridge for about 3 hours or so. And once that 3 hours has passed, we'll come back and take a look at what's going on. Okay, my zucchini have brined and I have drained them, and I'm going to get the pickling solution going. I've sanitized my jars and they're warm, they're not hot. I can still touch them because I need to pack them. And I apologize, I have no idea what just happened to the camera here, but it will clear up in just a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my brining solution started. So I've got my vinegar and my water, and I've got my burner set on medium high-ish. And to that, I'm going to add my seasoning, which is mustard, dill, red pepper, and garlic powder. And I'm going to let that come up to a boil. And while that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and start packing my jars. And I thought I cut these the right size, but I actually cut just a couple that are a little too long, so I'll have to trim those up as I go. Um, I'm going to go ahead and get all of my jars packed. Now, when you're packing these, because I'm doing spears, I like to stand them up in the jar, and you don't want to pack them in super tight, but you do want to pack them in pretty firmly. So you don't want to be wedging them down in there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get these jars packed. And once I have them packed, I will be back. It used to be that if you wanted crisp pickles, you had to use alum and or lime. Today they have pickle crisp, which is wonderful. And what I'm doing is I'm adding a spoonful of pickle crisps to each of my jars, and this will keep them crunchy instead of getting mushy. Now, once I have that in all of my jars, I'm going to add the couple of little pieces that I ended up cutting off just because there's a little bit of extra space. And then I'm going to put garlic and dill in my jars. Now, the recipe calls for large cloves of garlic, and I usually like to use the really big cloves of garlic, but what I have is really small pieces. So instead of putting 2 in a jar, I'm putting 5 or 6. I like garlic dill pickles. I like to taste the garlic in mine. Now that I have the garlic in, I'm going to add fresh dill. Now, if you don't have fresh dill, you can use dry dill. The ratio for that is 1 teaspoon of dry dill in place of a tablespoon of fresh dill. And I'm probably putting close to a tablespoon in each of my jars. Now, because I'm water bath canning today, I did heat my lids. I didn't bring them quite up to a simmer. I just set them in the pan and let the water get good and hot while I waited on the pickling solution to come up to a boil. And now that it is starting to boil, I am going to fill my jars, and we are looking for a 1/2 inch headspace today. So I'm going to fill these to about a 1/2 inch, and then I'll debubble them and top them off if I need to. Now, I do have some hot water in my kettle. Just in case I don't have enough brine, I can top with water. Now, when I'm making pickle spears, I like to debubble with a chopstick. I feel like I can get in between the pickle spears a little better than I can with a regular debubbling tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these debubbled, and then I'm going to bring them back up to the correct headspace and make sure that everything is underneath the brine. And like I said before, I ran out of brine at before debubbling, so I do have a kettle of hot water, and I think I am going to have to add just a little bit of hot water to them from the kettle. So now that I have them filled, I'm going to use some white vinegar and I'm going to clean the rims just in case anything splashed on them. I don't want anything to interfere with getting a good seal. And this actually serves two purposes. When I'm getting my jars ready for canning, I always check the rims to make sure that there are no nicks or chips or bumps or anything. And wiping them a second time with the wet paper towel lets me check that again just to make sure that there's nothing there that'll interfere with my seal. So now I'm going to grab some lids out of the hot water and get them on. And that's when I'm sanitizing for saving leftovers. And then once I have my lids on, I'm going to put my rings on and I'm just going to tighten them fingertip tight. You don't want to wrench them down. There needs to be enough spacing for the jars to be able to let air escape while they're processing. So again, I'm going to tighten these down just fingertip tight, and I'm going to put them back into the water bath canner, and I'm going to process these. Once they come up to a full rolling boil, I'm going to process them for 10 minutes. And once they come out, I'll bring you back. So I covered them with 1.5 inches of water and I brought them back to a full rolling boil and I let them process for 10 minutes and then I shut the heat off and I've let them sit for about 5 minutes. So now let's take a look and see how they turned out. Those really did turn out pretty nice this time. They have a really nice color to them. Now, pickling your zucchini is a great way to preserve your excess zucchini harvest. These are good in your pantry for a couple of years, but they're not good tomorrow. You want to let the brine work for at least 2 weeks before you open a jar. And can I just tell you, these make amazing fried pickles. If you love fried pickles, you really need to try these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these sit for the next 24 hours or so. I'll come back tomorrow. I will take off the rings, check the seals, wash the jars, label them, and put them in my pantry. And in a couple of weeks, I'll open a jar and try them out. I really hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I'd love it if you'd leave me a comment, and I hope that you'll subscribe. If you hit the bell, you'll be notified when I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching today. Have a great day.